Hi, my name is Sabrina. We're going to be going over Chapter 35. And in Chapter 35, we're going to be talking about the vascular structure, growth, and development. Vascular plants are made out of cells, tissues, and organs. They get their resources from above and below the ground. They absorb the water and the nutrients from below the ground. And they get their light and their CO2, which is also known as carbon dioxide, from above the ground for energy. They acquire these resources through the roots, leaves, and the stems, and they are considered to be the plant's basic organs. The ability to acquire the resources efficiently is traceable to evolution of the roots, stems, and leaves. Wait, I'm so sorry. These organs form a root system and a shoot system, the latter consisting of the stems and leaves. Vascular plants, with few exceptions, rely on both systems for survival. Roots are almost never photosynthetic. They starve unless photosynthesis, the sugars and the other carbohydrates produced during photosynthesis, are important from the shoot system. Conversely, the shoot system depends on the water and minerals that roots absorb from the soil. A root is an organ that anchors a vascular plant to the soil, absorbs minerals and waters, and often stores carbohydrates and other reserves. The primary root, originating in the seed embryo, is the first root to emerge from germinating seed. It soon branches to form lateral roots that can also branch, greatly enhancing the ability of the root system to anchor the plant and to acquire resources such as water, minerals, and from the soil. The tall plants with the large shoot systems to anchor and plants to acquire resources such as water and minerals from the soil. Tall plants with large shoot masses generally have a taproot system consisting of one main vertical root, the taproot, in which it develops from the primary root. In taproot systems, the role of absorption is restricted largely to tips of the lateral roots. A taproot, although energetically expensive to make, facilitates the anchorage of the plant in the soil by preventing the topping. The taproot enables the plant to grow taller, therefore giving it access to more favorable light conditions in some cases, providing advantage for pollen and seed dispersal. Taproots are also specialized in food storage. Small vascular plants are those that have the trailing growth habit are particularly susceptible to grazing, and they can uproot the plant and kill it. Such plants are efficiently anchored by the fibrous root system and the slender roots spreading out below the soil surface. I'm so sorry. In plants that have fibrous root systems, including most monocots, the primary root dies early on and does not form from taproot. Instead, many small roots emerge from this stem. Such roots are said to be adventitious, a term describing a plant organ that grows in unusual locations, such as root arising from the stems or leaves. Each root forms its own lateral roots, which it turns into to form their lateral roots. Because of the mat and roots holds topsoil in place, plants such as grasses have dense fibrous root systems and are especially good at preventing soil erosion. In most plants, the absorption of water and minerals occupy primarily near the tips of the elongating roots, where the vast number of the root hairs, thin finger-like extensions of root epidermal cells, emerge and increase the surface area of the root enormously. Most root systems are also form mycorrhizal association symbiotic interactions with the soil fungi that increases the plant's ability to absorb minerals. A stem is a plant organ bearing the leaves and buds. Its chief function is to elongate and orient the shoot in a way that maximizes photosynthesis by pollen and fruit. Green stems may also perform a limited amount of photosynthesis. Some plants have stems with alternate functions such as food storage and asexual reproduction. Many of these modified stems, including rhizomes, xylem, and tubers, are also mistaken for the roots. In most vascular plants, the leaf is the main heat and defend themselves. In addition to intercepting the light, leaves exchange gases with the atmosphere, dissipate heat, and defend themselves from herbivores and pathogens. Almost all leaves are specialized for photosynthesis. However, in some species, evolution has resulted in additional functions and as support, protection, storage, and asexual reproduction. All three vascular plant organs are composed of three fundamental tissue parts: dermal, vascular, and ground tissue. Each of these general types or forms of tissue systems that is continuous throughout the plant, connecting all of the organs. Dermal tissue serves as the outer protective coverage of the plant, like our skin. It forms the first line of defense against physical damage and pathogens. In non-woody plants, it is usually a single tissue called the epidermis, a layer of tightly packed cells. In leaves and most stems, the cuticle, a waxy epidermal coating, helps prevent water loss. In woody plants, protective tissues called periderm replace the epidermis in older regions of stems and roots. In addition to protecting the plant and the water loss and disease, the epidermis specialized characteristics in these organs. In the roots, water and minerals absorbed from the soil enter through the epidermis, especially in the root hairs. In shoots, specialized epidermal cells, guard cells, are involved in the gaseous exchange. Another class of highly specialized epidermal cells in the shoots consists of outgrowths called trichomes. In some desert species, hair-like trichomes reproduce water loss and reflect light. Some trichomes defend against insects through the shapes that hinder movement and glands that secrete sticky fluids or toxic compounds. The two major functions of vascular tissues are to facilitate the transport of materials through the plant and provide mechanical support. Vascular tissues are two types: xylem and phloem. Xylem conducts water and dissolved minerals upward from the roots into the shoots, and the phloems transport the sugars and the products of photosynthesis from where they are made to where they are needed and stored, usually in the roots and growth sites such as developing leaves and fruit. The vascular tissue of the root is collectively called the scale. The tissue that is neither dermal nor vascular is ground tissue. Ground tissue is the internal to the vascular tissue is known as pith, and ground tissue is external to the vascular tissue is known as cortex. Ground tissue is not just a filter, it includes cells specialized for functions such as storage, photosynthesis, support, and distance transport. Major differences between plants and most animals is that the plant is not limited to the embryonic or juvenile period. Instead, the growth occurs throughout the plant's life. Plants can keep growing because they have undifferentiated tissues called meristems, and they contain and can divide, leading a new cell that elongate becomes differentiated. Except for the dormant period, the plants can grow continuously. In contrast, most animals have some plant organs such as leaves, thorns, and the flowers undergo to determinate growth. They stop growing after reaching a certain size. Sorry, I'm reading again. The entire biomass of the primary root is derived from the root apical meristem. The root apical meristem also makes the thimble-like root cap, which protects this delicate apical mainstem as the root pushes through the abrasive soil. The root cap secretes a polysaccharide slime that lubricates the soil around the tip of the root. Growth occurs just behind the tip of the three overlapping zones of cells in successive stages of primary growth. These are the zones of cell division, elongation, and differentiation. Unlike roots and stems, secondary growth in leaves is minor and non-existent. As with roots and stems, the three primary meristems give rises to the tissue of the mature green. The leaf epidermis is covered with a waxy cuticle that greatly reduces water loss except for when it is interrupted by the stomata, which allows exchange of CO2 and O2 uptake for photosynthesis. Stomata are major avenues for evaporative loss of water. Secondary growth consists of tissues produced by vascular cambium and cork cambium. The vascular cabium adds secondary xylem into the secondary phloem, therefore increasing vascular flow and support for the shoots. The cork cabium produces a tough, thick covering of waxy cells that protect the stem from loss of water in organisms is called development. Development unfolds according to the genetic information that organism phenotypes in different environments. It inherits from its parents, but is also influenced by external environment. A single genotype can produce different phenotypes in different environments. Cell division helps enhance the potential for growth by increasing the number of cells, but plant growth itself is brought on by cell enlargement. The precise plane of the cell division determined during the late interphase usually corresponds to the shortest path that has the cytoplasm of the parent cell. However, during certain points in development, the cytoplasm may not be divided equally, resulting in the cell being larger than the other. Even though they have the same number of chromosomes, cell divisions constitute growth because there is no increase of mass involved. Rather, it is cell expansion. Plant cells rarely expand equally in all directions. Their greatest expansion is usually to the plant's main axis. A plant's body is more than a collection of dividing and expanding cells. These cells of developing organisms can synthesize different proteins and diverge in the structure and function, even though they share a common genome. If a mature cell removed from a root or leaf can differentiate in tissue culture and give rise to the diverse cell type of the plant, then it must possess all of the genes necessary to make any kind of cell in the plant. Therefore, cell differentiation depends on the large degree of the control of the main gene expression, the regulation, or the transcription or translation, resulting in the production of the specific genes. Multiple cellular organisms generally pass through developmental stages. In humans, these are infancy, childhood, adolescence, and adulthood, with puberty as the dividing line between the non-reproductive and reproductive stages. Plants also pass through these stages, developing from juvenile stage to adult vegetative stage to an adult reproductive stage. In animals, the developmental changes take place throughout the entire organism, such as when larva develops into the adult animal. In contrast, plant developmental stages called phases occur within a single region, the shoot apical meristem. The morphological changes that arise from these transitions in the shoot apical meristem are called phase changes. In contrast, plant developmental stages called phases occur within the segal region. The shoot apical meristem, the changes in the transition from a juvenile phase to an adult phase. Some species exhibit conspicuous changes in leaf shape. Flower transmission involves a phase change from vegetative growth to reproductive growth. This transition is triggered by a combination of environmental cues, such as day length, and internal signals, such as hormones. Thank you very much. I'm sorry that I give bad presentations. Hope you have a good day.